Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
Show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio Station, KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podchaser, GeoVan, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Rumble, Tiki Live, and more. I'm Dr. Marissa, your hashtag positive spin doctor, who wants you to not pay attention to gossip, scandal, or K-words, Kanye talk. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you could be happy 88% of the time, even when there is tragedy around us. And I am grateful for all of the people who continue to ask, how do we find balance in the middle of tragedy? How do we deal with all of the fear and anxiety and worry that every day the onslaught of more news, more shootings, more gun violence, more deaths. And so I've been doing a number of different shows. We did one on Buffalo. We've done one on self-care and managing through tragedy. And I put out there after I did the Uvalde commentary that I would love to find someone to come and talk about gun control, gun legislation, gun reform. And I just sort of put it out there. And then I got my inspiration about an hour later. It's like, I know the perfect person. He's someone that I met 11 years ago. And it's not 20. I didn't realize on the post. I'll say it's hashtag COVID confusion, but it was only 11 years ago. Not only, but it was 11 years ago that in October, and it was October 12th, because I remember October 13th. I had a piece published in the Orange County Register. Much to, it wasn't a planned piece. It wasn't anything like that. And those of you who haven't read it, I put it on the social for you. But it was an event that changed my life one more time. And the hashtag silver lining of that was meeting individuals like my guest today, who are great examples of taking pain and tragedy and alchemizing it into energy and power and influence to change things that are not working. And so without further ado, please welcome to my studio. His name is Paul Wilson. His wife was Christy Wilson, and she is in heaven with my dad right now. I know she's loving us from there. He has taken all of this. He's a gun reform and justice reform advocate. Please welcome to my studio, Paul Wilson. And hold on, I'm going to give you some. Sam had that. Yay. Paul, I'm so delighted to have you again. I think it was maybe 8 years ago that I had you. 8 or 9 years ago, and the news covered that you had just started doing your work. But let's go back. For those of you who haven't heard about this Seal Beach Salon shooting, I would be surprised. It is still the worst Orange County massacre in the books. And take me back, Paul, to that tragic day for all of us.
Well, it was boy. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a really So, when I look back on it, it's such a surreal day, right? Christy and to have this really unique opportunity to spend some time together in the morning and visit with each other, and usually with the kids in the house, we really had some hectic mornings there, and that day was just everything about it was so different. Everybody was out of the house early. It was such a warm day. We were able to just sit kind of in our front room in the chairs in the inn and have our coffee and talk. And Christy, she was a very spiritual person, and the night before was and you'll know more about this, but I guess she called it the forgiving moon. And she I asked her about that morning, and she had said to me, Paul, it's just so strange because I sat out there last night and I had no forgiveness to ask for, nobody to forgive. And it was just a really special time out there to realize that life is so great. And I just, I look back on that and I think, wow, what a moment. And of course, after we had our coffee, I had to hurry off because I was going to get a haircut at the salon. And I got there that morning. I saw everybody come to work that day, said hello to everybody, heard all the stories. And I left 2 hours before that coward came in and, did what he did. And Christy actually was not working that day. She was just going in to get her hair done and visit with her friends in the salon. So, when I got word that it happened, I didn't know. I didn't know if she was there or not. So, it became a waiting game for me. And this is one of the things that struck me with the Uvalde shooting was they showed those parents standing across the street, and it just put me back into that moment of standing across the street at the church and just hours upon hours upon hours waiting for some sort of news.
Yeah.
Well, difficult, very difficult day.
Yes. And first, thank you for sharing your heart. Tears are the disinfectant that keep our hearts soft. So I'm so blessed and honored for you to share that with me. And
Thank you. This is my therapy to be able to talk about it. So
good. And thank you. And I met you when you just arrived to the library. That's where they were putting all the parents or all the family members of victims. And I don't know if I've ever told you this story. I actually offered my services. I went to the library and said, look, I'm a psychologist, and if you need it. And they said, oh no, we've got grief counselors, thanks but no thanks. And so I left. And when I left, I heard this, Dr. Marissa, and your friend who had just seen at the gym in the morning ran over to me and said, oh my God, you have to help my friend Paul, his wife, and you have to help, and she dragged me over to where you had just landed and were walking sort of dazed. And there's a picture of us walking, I couldn't find it, in one of the papers going to the library.
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and you were in shock. And so I was on one side of you, she was on the other, and we brought you to the library. And I went to say, I'm not one of the family, so I was going to leave. And you grabbed my arm and you said, come. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to the library. And then I tried to leave again later on. and your sister-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
who I knew from another group of people,
Mm-hmm.
Stacy, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I just brought your brother-in-law in, and I'm leaving." And she goes, "No, no, no, you can't leave." So for some reason, it was my day to be in that library, and it was
God works in mysterious ways.
He does, and just being there to hold and hug, and my heart was broken. I can't even imagine what you were going through. And so for those of you, the coward that he's talking about was the ex-husband in a custody battle with her best friend in the salon.
Right.
And he came and he shot 8 people or 9 people.
9 people total.
9 people total.
Yes.
8 died. Only 1 survived.
Correct.
And one was in the parking lot in a car, and he was shot. And then Doug actually came on the show and talked about that day because he found all of the bodies.
Yeah.
So it was a horrific day, and I know that the healing continues
every day.
Every day. And you began, at what point did you take that anger and say, I want to do something? Because not everybody does this.
Well, to be honest with you, we went through, oh God, I don't know, a good 2 weeks of funerals and just kind of to process everything. But I quickly learned that my therapy was going to be about talking about it and educating other people. And when I say educating, I mean educating them about, gun violence, but also educating people that were now going to go through what I had just gone through. And I don't know that I could say telling them how to deal with it, because there's really no telling somebody how to deal with something like that. But just kind of listening to them and helping them, and me be able to understand what they're feeling, because I just gone through it.
Yes.
And so I would say, that need became apparent pretty quickly within a good 30 days, within a month. I was reaching out to the Brady Committee and wanting to get involved with them, and just trying to be out there and speaking publicly as much as I could about what had happened and how I felt and what other people were going through. And, in the world we live in, it's sad to say, but, it's something that you could talk about every day because it's an everyday occurrence.
Yes, unfortunately it is. And I was heartened to know that you've actually been to Sandy Hook twice. And I'm glad that people are taking advantage of your experience, as horrible as it was, because it is my BS, my belief system, that bad things happen to good people so that they can help those going through similar things. And so that's certainly one of the beautiful blessings that's come out, as painful as it is. I know that you've been a comfort. So have you gone at this point, to Uvalde, or is there an organization that people can go to get help?
Well, I'm sure the Brady Committee, which is a great organization, is sending people there as they did with me. That was my first dispatch, and working with them was to Sandy Hook.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was probably, I'm going to go back in my 57-year-old mind and try to remember, but I think it was 2 days after the shooting that I had arrived there. And there was a group of us that they had put together from Columbine and Aurora, and just the number of mass shootings that were still in the news pretty much daily, which is what happens when every time one of these pops up. But we had a nice little group that went, and we were able to talk with those parents. One thing I want to say though is this is how I immediately learned about grief that an individual can feel, right? And it's different for everybody. And when I say that, what I mean by that is, you know, what happened to me was it's incredibly tragic. But I was married to Christy for 26 years. We raised 3 children, 2 grandchildren, and I had a great life. You know, when I look back on it, there's no complaints. When I arrived at Sandy Hook, I met parents that had just lost 5, 6-year-old children, and that grief of not having that life experience with them was different than my grief. Completely different. It was a much bigger tragedy, and I realized that immediately. There's some really special parents there, and you know, I just I pray for them every day. Sorry.
No, do not apologize ever, ever. Promise me you will never, from this point forward, apologize.
Yeah. So I was in Sandy Hook 2 days out, and then you know, we went back. They put together the same group to go back at the 1 year mark. A lot of people use the word anniversary. It's something I'll never use, because to me an anniversary is a good moment. And
thank you for that.
I went back a year later and was able to still see a lot of the same parents. And you know, something I'll never forget. One of the ladies said to me, you know, do you still live in the same home that you and your wife shared together? And I said, yes, absolutely. And she said, how do you do that? And I said, well, first of all, that home was Christy's childhood home. She grew up in that home. So to me, there's a lot of Christy in that house. There's a lot of love. You feel her the minute you walk in the door. And I told the woman that, and she just looked at me and said, God, you know, I'm still living in a hotel room, because the first door I see when I walk through the house is my son's door, and I just can't put myself up to walking through into that house. And it just brought me right back, man. This is something different. This is different grief than I'm feeling, and
right,
you know, just it's horrible.
Yeah. Let's take a minute right now and just take a deep breath in through the nose and release peace, comfort, love to all the parents who have lost their child in this last month to gun violence, and just knowing that this breath, chi, eternal energy, you know, Christy would like this, and just sending it out there just as comfort, because we just know we're all connected, and what happens to children, it happens to us all. It impacts us in the worst way. And just knowing that we can never feel that pain of the parents, but we can be the arms that surround them energetically. And one more deep breath in and release. And so it is. Okay. Now the gun stuff. So the normal reaction that I hear or see posted is, this is why we shouldn't have guns. This is why the amendment needs, the amendment needs to change. And, why are we still using something that was created so long ago, and it's stupid? And why do we even have guns? And then the other extreme, this has nothing to do with the guns. They could have used knives or whatever it is. If you have an unstable person or an angry person, they're going to use something as a weapon. It's got nothing to do with guns. So those are the two extremes, right? Now, bring me to, I know Christy's law is saying anyone going through any kind of emotional process should not be allowed to have their guns for a certain period of time. Is that accurate?
It's somewhat accurate, yes. I mean, we do have a law in the books that says if you're under psychiatric care of a doctor and on some sort of prescription medications, You cannot possess a firearm. Well, that's a great law, right? But we have two problems with that. First of all, who's going to enforce that law? I mean, you as a doctor, are you going to write to whoever and tell them that your patient is now on this medication and has a gun? It's just it's not that's a pipe dream. It'll never happen. And it's the biggest. That every time this happens, we hear our politicians go on and say, our thoughts and prayers are with you. That's old. It's getting as old as the Second Amendment, which is such an antiquated, law that's on the books right now. I mean, it's just, we're talking about in today's world with the firepower that's available to just about anybody that wants it. That law was written when people were loading one little ball into a musket, and it took 3 or 4 minutes to reload and shoot again. And it's I'm not an expert I'm not a lawyer, but I believe, and from what I've read, the Second Amendment clearly states that you you have the ability to bear a firearm in a organized militia. And that was basically written to protect the farmers from their land being taken from the British. So that just goes to tell you how antiquated this law that we hold on to. And, we are allowing, and I mean allowing, our politicians are allowing our children to be murdered. And it's horrible. And this is why I've moved into not only gun reform, but justice reform, because we need accountability for those guys. They're the ones sitting back and doing nothing. Look, there was mass shootings before mine. Mine happened in 2011, and I think we've already had. I want to say in the 500 or 600s, and I could be incorrect, just this year of mass shootings. Now, a mass shooting is determined by 4 or more people being killed, not including the shooter. But think about that. I mean, just in this 6 months of the year, we've had that many, and we've had COVID. I mean, to be honest with you, if we didn't have COVID for 2 years, those numbers would be tripled. So it's time to start holding people accountable for, doing something about this. This is not 200 years ago, and you can't hold on to the Second Amendment. Now, is Paul Wilson saying take guns out of everybody's hands? Absolutely not. I don't believe that. If you are a responsible gun owner, you should have the right to possess any kind of, I almost said the wrong thing. You should be able to possess a firearm. There is nobody, and I mean, I'll argue this with anybody that wants to argue it, that needs, an AR or an assault weapon. It's ridiculous. They're made for one thing. They're made for the military and law enforcement because they're killing machines. That's what they are. Simply what they are. I've been in arguments or guys are telling me, well, I go hunting with that. Well, isn't hunting a sport? And when you want to load a rifle, and if you can't hit it with the first time, shoot it again. That's the sport of it, right? I mean, so why do you want to have something that shoots 1,000 rounds? I mean, what fun does that make it? So I don't get that argument, but whatever, have a good time explaining it. But it's just, those guns and those weapons make no sense being out and available on our streets.
I absolutely 100% agree with you. Is there an organization that actually states that people can sign petitions for, or, move that into a legislation?
There probably is. I don't know of them, but after you just mentioned that, I will be starting one.
Good. I will join it. I will absolutely join it and support it and begin to. We can put that on change.org, actually.
There we go. All right.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
The other thing while we're on that is the whole point in it. If you look at the history behind these, a lot of these guys, including the coward that was involved in our shooting, these guys are coming in with body armor. Now, tell me what what person needs to log onto the internet and go and buy body armor if you're not in law enforcement or a military? That should be the biggest red flag, that we need a background check, or we need some sort of investigation on this guy or this person before they go out and receive this body armor in the mail and load themselves up to go out and basically get in a gun battle with, after they shoot everybody, with whoever they're going to face. It's
Right.
moronic
Right.
in this day and age that we allow that to happen.
Right. Absolutely. We're going to have to take a quick break, but when we come back, I do want to continue to ask you about things like this. Like what should we do? Like even background checks, people say, that's one of the things, but is that really going to do it? What are the practical things that need to have some power, some people power behind the idea to move it along? So that's when we come back. If you've just tuned in, I am speaking to Paul Wilson, who became a friend of mine through a tragedy, the Seal Beach Salon shootings, and he's taken his pain and alchemized it into efforts in both gun and justice reform. We'll be right back with more here on Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News Radio, KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News Radio, CNBC News Radio, and NBC Sports Station, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and my YouTube channel, which, thanks to you, has reached over 250,000 views. Actually, we're at 253,000, and a 9-year running show about hope and happiness. And on my YouTube channel, you can also get my interviews with Halle Berry, John Travolta, Quincy Jones, and my new short film, PPP, Post-Pandemic Possibilities. So if you're trying to come back in the most positive way, then please do free subscribe there, and you'll get an alert every 8 a.m. morning for my new morning show here on KCAA. And today we are talking and tackling a difficult topic with a guest who is sharing his heart with us. Paul Wilson is, as a result of the tragedy of the shooting and killing of his wife, Christy, along with 8 other individuals in the Salon Meritage Salon Seal Beach shooting back in 2011. And he has taken his pain and begun to, and continues to, for the last 10 years, work on gun and justice reform. Welcome back to the studio, Paul.
Thank you.
And we were talking about, is better background checks going to do the ticket? Is that something that's really going to help?
I do believe that it is one of the steps. The biggest step that we need to, even before we get, is we need our lawmakers to start having some communication. Where's the dialogue? Start talking about it. It's not going away. This is the accountability that, we need to have from those guys. We elect them. They work for us. So start doing your job and start working. Okay.
Give me an example of what they're not doing. Cause you're like front and center with this. Like
right. So, it's something. And right now, I mean, you turn on the news and I don't want to get too political about it, but, we have this, party lines, right, where the Democrats don't want to talk to the Republicans, and the Republicans are staunch Second Amendment right protectors, and there's some Democrat. And to me, it doesn't matter. I don't care who you are, Democrat, Republican, whatever it is. This is an epidemic that we have in the United States of America, and that's your job, is to fix those things. So get rid of all of that and just figure out, how do we start this process? Because we're doing nothing. Nothing has changed because there's no communication. There's no back and forth, why we should and why we shouldn't. They just don't talk about it because this is our belief and this is our belief. And we're standing across here and we're just gonna ignore you guys. And guess what? We're losing kids, which is the hard part about it. But these mass shootings are just happening all the time. And, for me, and I've always said this, it's hard to really understand if you haven't walked in those shoes. And, I don't know the answer to this. And I tried to find it on the internet, but I just wonder how many lawmakers that sit up there and have that gun Second Amendment and gun argument have actually lost a child or lost a wife or a brother or a sister to gun violence or a mass shooting. I don't know the answer, but I can tell you this: it would change real quick, very quickly. I'm glad that hasn't happened, because I don't want it to happen to anybody. It's a horrible, horrible feeling, with every day. But it will open your eyes to see that there needs to be some change. Yeah. What is that change? I really don't have one big answer except steps, communication, background checks, limiting, capacity of magazines.
So limiting capacity of magazines would help.
Sure. I believe it would. I mean, I heard somebody say, and I don't know who it was, but it was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. And they said, guns make us safer. Guns make us safer. Now, if that was really the truth, we would be the safest country in the world, because we have more guns on the street than we do people in population. So if guns made us safe,
we should be safe.
We should be safe. We're the only country in the world that has mass shootings.
Is that? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Well, not that it's happened, but if it's happened once, it's never happened again. No other country has it with the frequency that we do.
Okay.
By leaps and bounds. Okay. In fact, I just read something the other day that said the leading what do you think the leading cause of death among children is?
Well, we're on the topic of guns, so I'm gonna guess
it is gun violence. It used to be car accidents. So what did we do? We put in laws about seatbelts. We put in laws about children have to be at a certain weight in a car seat that is, been certified. And after they get to a certain weight, now they move into a booster seat. So we realized that kids were getting killed and people were getting killed. So we implemented seatbelt laws, and you will get pulled over for not wearing your seatbelt. It is an infraction. If your kid is not in a car seat, you will get pulled over. So it's an enforceable law.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing the same thing here?
Yeah. Great question. So there is no bipartisan group out there right now addressing gun violence and gun control. Is that correct?
No, I think there's plenty of them. And like I said, I know the Brady Committee on Gun Violence is still out there. I know the Giffords have they have a really good organization. Gabby Gifford and her husband, who was shot in Arizona. They have a really good one out there. There's the Sandy Hook people are still out there with. There's Everytown on gun violence that's out there. There's plenty of organizations. The problem is these guys do great work, but then they get it up to the level where, our politicians have to put it in their hands to start moving it forward and enforcing it, and they do nothing with it. They're the ones that hold this in their hands. They're responsible. It's their accountability.
Got it. So we can help with that by who we vote for, by maybe writing letters and asking specifically, what have you done and ask for proof or ask for, where you stand on it, what you think, or what are you going to put into place. Um,
Yes.
I'm not I was actually asked to run at one point in Seal Beach for one of the districts, but this is a horrible thing to say, but I was born in Canada, so the highest I can get in U.S. politics is Secretary of State. So if I can't be president, I'm not going to run. But anyways, going back to bills, introducing bills, are there gun law bills out there that we can support? Is there anything coming up?
Well, I think we have some stuff coming up.
Okay.
I think, but this is once again something we see when this happens. We see a little stirring, with our government, and now they want to start. But now we need to push them on this, and I know they are holding some special committee meetings, because I believe they are on break right now, but a few of them have gotten together, and that's great. So now we know they're talking about it. Now let's hold them accountable to continue talking about it.
Mhm.
Let's ask them every day, what are those conversations like? Tell us. Shows like this, our local news, they need to be, more on it too. Those reporters need to be holding, especially here in California. Okay, so our lawmakers in California, what was that conversation like today? What did you accomplish? Instead of waiting to hear the end result that, unfortunately just sometimes, disappears.
Yeah, for sure. What can the average person do when they hear, you wake up, another mass killing, you wake up, another shooting? Instead of just shaking your head and saying, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, what can we specifically do to help?
Well, like you said earlier, and I wish more people would do this, and you brought up a very good point, but write letters. Listen, every person's on the internet. Every lawmaker has a way to get a hold of via the internet. Just be persistent and keep writing those letters. It's a word that you're probably getting tired of me saying, but accountability. It's, this is something I've learned since 2011, is that these guys operated under a mask of immunity. Like, they're just not accountable for stuff that they should be accountable for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that starts, it starts at a local level too. I live in Orange County, and I'm trying to hold these guys accountable, not only for gun reform, but for justice reform every single day. Mm-hmm. We have some guys in there that are bad players, and they need to be held accountable. We have so much corruption and injustice in our local government that that's where we got to start. So, and you just gotta have a voice. You gotta hold rallies. You gotta speak your mind, and you gotta hold on to that though. You just made a good point, is that, before 2011, I was that person, and I'll admit it. And I tell this story all the time, that I would see something like that happen on the news, and I would sit there in front of the television and say, my God, that's so horrible. But in reality, I wake up the next day and it didn't really affect me. Right. So it was hard to hold on to. But I'm telling you, I know the pain now, and it is, listen, if you're a parent, we're talking about the kids and the shootings now because that's what's in the front news, but it's not a matter of if it happens, it's a matter of when it happens, because it's gonna happen. And I mean, I have 3 granddaughters, and I'm absolutely terrified for them to leave the house every day. I mean, look, when we live in a world where you can't go to a movie theater, you can't go to the supermarket, you can't go to church, you can't go to the beauty salon. And now, as you saw, I wake up this morning and there's a mass shooting at a hospital. When you can't go to those places, we're Americans, and those are the luxuries, that we want to experience. And the fact that you have to look over your shoulder, wonder who's behind you, you have to walk into something and know where the exits are in case something like this happens. That's not too American to me, and it's very upsetting. It's a tragedy.
Yeah, no freedom there.
No freedom there.
No freedom there to move. So what I'm hearing is so the balance, I'm all about balance. So one, it's okay to have a firearm. If that's the right, if you really want to, for the sport or whatever, you have a firearm. Okay. You have that right. There's no reason in the world to have an assault rifle for any reason. So that there should be a change.org in the complete banning of that right away for everyone. Okay. 200%. That would be 2. 3, there's no reason to have body armor. Correct. As a person off the street. So that's banning that right away.
Right away.
The magazines only encourage all of that stuff and make things accessible. That's 4. I went to cover a press conference on phantom guns, which apparently you can manufacture without serial numbers, no trace, no background check, nothing. So anything to do with phantom guns, you should be against. That's 5. Help me. Is there anything else? Because all of those things are actionable. Like we can put thanks to social media too. We can put a change.org. I love that organization. It puts it front and center. We can begin to sign petitions that way, move it that way. Have a larger organization like I can't even think of one that combines all the ones like you were talking about, Sandy Hook and all of those, so that it's a larger organization that is coordinated to bring more power to legislation and decisions made by legislators. That's something you can do.
Absolutely. And you just gave 5 great examples of what I said as steps. So tackle those 5, right? And those 5 will create another 5, and so on until we have. I'll never use the word solution, but we can find a way to better handle, a better grip, and slow this madness down and slow it down. I mean,
because you can't control if the person is mentally unstable. You cannot control if they are hate. Although it's true, you can control how, if you see your kid starting to spew hate speech, there's something you can do. It's not there. That is not a helpless situation. And I would say, Paul, this is solution. It's part of the solution. It is not the solution, but all those little pieces are solution, which is why I do this show. I'm not here to dramatize gun violence. I'm here because I want to know what we can specifically do so that we are safer. And on the feeling safe, we have to realize too that if we walk in fear on this all the time, that is not going to help us with solution. You cannot be creative when you're afraid to walk outside. So, gosh darn it, I'm not going to let some idiot or idiots with assault rifles take away my ability to live my life. At the same time, I have to take responsibility because nobody else is, right? Legislators are. So what can we do as the people to bring that about? Sorry, that was my soapbox.
That's all right. Just on that point on change, something I've been talking about over, the last year is, I get it that there's these guys out there that love those or people that love these high powered weapons, and it really, gives them a charge. It's like guys love to go out and surf and get a big wave, right? So this is their satisfaction to do that. So and listen, okay, that's great. So my idea would be, you have these gun stores and shooting ranges all over the place, right? So especially coming out of COVID with, small businesses being, lost and down, why don't we say, look, if you want to shoot an AR or an assault weapon, here's what you do. Come to my shop, pay this amount of money to take this course that teaches the safety of the gun and how to operate the gun. Okay. And once you do that, you've paid money to take the test. Now that small business owner is getting their income. The city's getting their taxes. The county's getting, the state's getting it. Now you can go into this place, rent a gun, which everybody's making money now off of, and you can shoot as many rounds as you want. Just keep laying down the dollars and shoot. Mm-hmm. When you get done shooting, the gun goes back into the locked gun safe inside the gun store. The shop is happy. They've made their money. The county, the city, the state's made their money. And that guy that needs to shoot that gun, he just blew off 2,000, 3,000 rounds. He's happy too.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple stuff. This is just dialogue. And this is what I mean. I mean, there's a solution to every problem. Yeah. But if you're not talking about it, and we're not holding our lawmakers accountable for talking about it, we'll never get to that point ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said, and a point very well taken. And I absolutely agree. It's almost like before you buy a gun, you go through this checklist. Do you realize the risk and responsibility you're taking by buying this gun and having it in your house? If you have children, are you okay with the possibility that they'll find it and kill themselves? Are you okay with the possibility that someone's going to take this gun and kill people in another mass shooting? Are you okay with your own mental stability that you're not going to be pissed off one more time with someone cutting you off in traffic, that you're going to shoot the person and the kid like it just happened?
Yes.
And it, have this like 20 checklist before you buy the gun, even as a firearm, not the assault rifle. So anyway, I am so grateful that you've come on, Paul. I really do. I feel like there is something we could do. I feel empowered by this conversation that just anybody can do something. I've learned about, the difference between firearm and there's a huge difference between firearm and the assault rifle. And thank you for that. The last question that I always ask my guests is, to who or what are you most grateful for? And I think I asked you that 8 years ago, but I'm going to ask you again, to who or what are you most grateful for?
Interesting question. And I'm gonna say this and encompass a lot of things. I'm grateful for life and the life that I've been able to live. It's been this horrible tragedy in it, but it's taught me to grow as a person. It's taught me to grow as a father and a grandfather, and most importantly, I've remarried. It's taught me how to love again, and so it's just life, and I'm so thankful to have it.
That's a beautiful answer. And I'm going to also, I gave this to you last time, but I'm going to double up. Not many of my guests get two, but I'm awarding you with Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award again.
Thank you very much for that.
You have my utmost respect. I bless you with continued energy and for all the things that you're doing. And you hold them to the fire and you tell them that you have Dr. Marissa's 1000% support in everything that you do from now until the end of time.
I definitely will. And it was so great to see you again and talk with you.
So amazing to see you again. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, and that is it for today's show. I hope you, man, I'm blown away by the level of understanding that I have. I don't feel as helpless now when I see, more mass shootings. Again, this morning there was another one, and as he was mentioning, in the hospital. You can do something. So look for the newchange.org. I'm going to get together with Paul and we're going to put something through about the assault rifles, as well as the, I saw one from a parent from Sandy Hook, and I'm going to go back and revisit that one. And I'm so glad that he's helping people with that. Please share this show. Please continue to stay in solution. We're gonna, you know, we're gonna be safe in America. We are. I just know it. The Asian Oprah giveaway, the 2 tickets to Don McLean at the Saban Theater will go to the first person that goes to drmarissa.life and put Saban in the subject line for those 2 tickets. I'll be giving more tickets away tomorrow. I have a special guest who's coming tomorrow. She's an actress, and her name is Kayla Caulfield. Yes, she was one of my fellow, is there a fellowette actresses on Breastival, conversation about the girls. Some of you have seen that already, supporting Susan G. Komen's foundation, raising funds for cancer awareness. Director, producer Sonia Jackson, my fellow Agape choir mate, and we get to open for the Temptations on Saturday at the Peterson Museum. And I'm told I have to go. So peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room, wishing you the best and safest day ever.